There are no bad businesses. There are just those people who don't know enough to see the opportunities in the work they're in. If there seems to be no future or opportunity in it, it isn't always because it's not there, but perhaps only because we can't see it.
All right, testing. Can you guys hear me now? Hopefully you guys have audio now. But I love all the comments, no audio. So hopefully this video will get a ton of engagement now. That's what I should just say. My whole hack of this was to not have my audio working, so you guys would all comment in to drive up the engagement. So now my audio is working. But no, that's not what I did. I messed up with my audio mic, so I'm sorry about that. Let me start again for the third time, because they say the third time's the charm. Thank you guys for tuning in on Instagram as well. So I am hiring 8 to 16 salespeople a month. And, I was thinking about what am I going to share on this Monday Mindset? And I thought, hey, why don't I share, 4 things that we teach to try to create elite salespeople. And to give you kind of where my company is at today, I have about 300 employees, but 130 of those are salespeople on the phone, booking appointments, closing deals. It's a one-call close environment. We are virtual now, so I have salespeople working all over the nation in their home offices. It used to be just in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it was like a row of cubicles. We had music playing on the speakers. And I was mentioning maybe another Monday Mindset, I will talk about managing a virtual culture. So if you have a remote team, I think it'd be valuable for us to talk about like ideas, and we can share back and forth ideas of how do you keep your remote team motivated, because that's been a challenge for us, but it's been something I've learned or learning to do, and I've learned a lot in the process. But today I want to talk about sales. I want to talk about 4 tactics that we teach to try to create elite closers. I will start with the first one, which is really I call the playbook. right? In order to become an elite closer, you must create a playbook. Most of us, when we go into sales, because of our personality, we're not the most organized. I'm not the most organized. So maybe looking on camera here, it looks like I'm all organized. But if you guys could see my actual desk, I tend to always have papers strewn everywhere. We're not the most organized people. We're not super detail oriented as salespeople. And that hurts us in sales. Why? Because if you don't have a process that you follow, a playbook that you run, guess what you can't do? You can't evolve and improve upon what you're doing. If you've heard the saying, right, you cannot improve what you don't measure. You can't improve what you don't track. A playbook is a very similar type idea that you need a playbook for your sales process. How do we create elite closers here at Reminder Media? We have a process that we teach. We have a playbook that you have to run. And when we think about that playbook, I am not a scripted type person. What I mean by that is I don't believe there's magic words that you say to close a deal. And I would challenge anybody out there that says, just say these words that are on paper to get a deal closed, that person's probably not selling very much. I don't believe it's a scripted type environment, but I do believe it's a process type environment. We have a process that people need to go through. Maybe you consider it to be a funnel where you're funneling the prospect down to the close. Here is what I teach our people when it comes to the process and it comes to the script. You need to memorize the process. So if you're teaching salespeople on your team, you need to first develop a process, right? If you are a solopreneur and you're the only salesperson on your team, what's your process? What's the script that you use? What's the process that you go through? And you do the same thing on every single call so you can get repetition, right? And repetition creates scale. You need to memorize your process. But the second part is internalize your process. What does internalization mean? So I want people to, when they get on board here at Reminder Media, I want them to memorize our process. I want them to recite our scripts. Grant Cardone says it best. Frequency creates greatness. Frequency creates greatness. Just like you go to the gym to break down the muscle, to build the muscle up, right? That repetition is going to build the muscle. The frequency of reciting the same thing over and over and over and over again is going to get you better and better and better at it. But you need to take it from memorization to internalization. Teach your reps to internalize. What does that mean? Why are you saying what you're saying? So if you're, again, a solopreneur, because I want this to apply to everybody, when you do your script, right? And you go, this is the process I'm going to stick to. This is the one that I believe is working. Go through and internalize. Why am I saying what I'm saying at each phase of the funnel? What is this getting across? Because when you teach, you need to teach on the essence, not on the technicality. So the example I use for my salespeople a lot is like speeding, right? The cop doesn't pull you over for going 36 in a 35 mile per hour zone. They don't pull you over there, even though technically you are breaking the law. They don't pull you over. Why? Because it's not the essence of the law. The essence of a speed limit law is so you are safe, so you don't drive recklessly, so people are protected. So the cop is using their ability to kind of discern, hey, is this person breaking the essence of the law? Even though technicality-wise, 36 and a 35 is breaking the law, it's the essence of the law that matters. In your teaching of your sales process, what matters the most is the essence. What are you trying to get across to the prospect? What are you trying to make them feel at this moment? What is the essence that you're trying to get across? That is the internalization. And then after internalization comes the third part, which is the most important, which is personalization. So you memorize, you internalize, and you personalize. That's the process I want my salespeople to go through. Personalization, the example I give is no actor wins an Academy Award just reciting a movie script. What do? They make it their own. They get into character. They create the character, and they personalize that script. So what does that mean for all of you? What that means for all of you is that, hey, you need to personalize. If you're teaching your reps how to sell, you want to teach them how to personalize and make it their own and follow this playbook by, hey, memorizing first, internalizing second, and then personalizing. So that's the first thing we do to try to create elite salespeople. One of the other things that I wrote down when it comes to what we teach that I think is really critical, I call it the smile and dial. Maybe you've heard that saying before. I also refer to it as embracing the no. Right? This is super important. You heard me talk on another Monday Mindset that you can't control the result, So we want our people to try to get 3 sales a day over the phones. They can't often control the result, but you know what they can control? They can control their activity. The biggest thing that brings salespeople down is they have the wrong mindset. They go into every day thinking about the close instead of thinking about the no's. One of the greatest activities you can do right now in sales is understanding how many no's it takes you to get to a yes. Do you know that number? Do you know it's 100 no's to get to your yes? What you should do is get a jar full of pennies. Every time you get a no, take one of those pennies out and put it in an empty jar and count over the day how many pennies does it take you to move in order to get that yes. All of a sudden, your whole mindset and perspective shifts. You're going into every single day doing what? I got to move all these pennies into this jar. Because I know if I can move all these pennies into this jar, I am going to get a deal. Instead of thinking, I got to close 2 deals today, you start focusing on embracing the no, and that changes everything. And obviously, we all know in sales, right? No is not a never. No is just a building block to a yes. You've heard those sayings before. But teaching people that they need to smile and dial. What that means internally to our culture is that you embrace the no. You go from rejection to rejection with a smile. Not only that, you enter into every call with enthusiasm. One of the greatest things you can do to become an elite salesman is to treat every customer like they're your only customer, every prospect like it's your only prospect. One of the biggest challenges we face, right? Because we call upon insurance agents. I own a marketing company, right? So I'm trying to get you guys to use my marketing products. We call upon real estate agents, mortgage professionals, advisors. They get calls all day long from marketing companies trying to sell them leads, trying to sell them whatever it is under the sun that they have. I tell my sales team, what separates you from Bob, who just called right before you? If you don't have that smile, that enthusiasm, that makes someone feel like you have something special, that there's a purpose and a reason for my call. You're not just a number in my queue that I'm dialing. You matter. It makes all the difference. Every prospect should feel like they're the only person you talk to all day long, and that you actually entered in that call with enthusiasm. That leads me to another point, which is when you enter a call, people teach, right, match and mirroring often. So you hear someone answer the phone, and if they're a little soft, you come in a little soft. If they're a little aggressive, you come in back at it a little aggressive. The idea there, if you study the match and mirroring, is that rapport is often built on commonality, right? So when people feel like they're like you, they tend to like you, is the concept. And so when you're in your sales call, you want to match and mirror. But what I teach our salespeople that goes along with this smile and dial is that, hey, the key is if you're going to go in and match and mirror, which I can understand and appreciate. If you're, let's say an elderly lady in Texas picks up the phone and she's very soft and Southern and talks a little slower. No offense to all you Texas people. I'm up here in the East, I'm the Northeast up here in Philadelphia, but she talks a little slow and you want to just slow down a little bit and match her where she's at. One of the things that you must do is something called pacing, meaning your job is not to keep that lady at the level she's at. Your job is to build her up to your level, to get an excitement going where you start pacing the call, you start leading the call, you start making them feel more and more excited and bring that energy and enthusiasm to the call. Why do I focus and harp so much on energy, enthusiasm, all this stuff? It's because you must get something into motion to get movement. Like you've got to get people excited. And if they're physically excited, they're a lot more able to make a decision when it comes to actually purchasing a product because there's some motion going on. There's an emotion that they're feeling, let alone the motion of the energy that you're getting in the call. So you got to smile and dial. Mike Rothberg says it's like a dance. Match your partner. Love that. Awesome. Joe says, I believe they talk about that in Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, but I may be misquoting. That is actually a phenomenal book. If you've never read Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, he was an FBI negotiator for years, and he talks about language and obviously all these things of how to actually negotiate, and he's way better at it than me. But these are things that, like the smile and the dial, embracing the no, matching and mirroring, but setting the pace has helped our closers. And the thing is, natural salespeople are salespeople that are really good. They naturally do this. So if you find yourself, you're not great at sales, maybe you're missing this component, and it's something that you can learn how to do. All right, the third thing that I wrote down about what we teach in our culture that has made us really successful in sales is assuming the close. I actually would credit this. So we've done well over $400 million in sales now as an organization over the years. And I would credit this concept in sales to being a game changer for me. And remember, I had no professional sales training. I in college sold Verizon wireless cell phones. I hate to say it if anybody else sells Verizon out there. I don't think that's real sales. They're coming into the retail store to you. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, basically. But, so I didn't have any real training. So it took me a long time of frequency just to figure this stuff out. But one of the things I realized about great salespeople is they don't dance around the point. Right? They don't beat around the bush. They're very direct. They don't try to hide their intention. I think it was Grant Cardone that teaches state your intention from the beginning. So if you want someone to use your product, you state, hey, my goal is I want you to use our product. Hey, my goal is I want to help you and I want to get you using our, insurance company. State your intention. The consumer loves that. Consumers feel when you're dancing around the bush, when you're not being direct. If you ever think you're going to feature sell someone into buying your product, you're never going to be a great salesman, right? Features tell, value sells. You got to get right to the point, being very direct with people. And I call this in our closing, assuming the close. You got to assume people are going to do this, that they want to do business with you, and go in the assumptive close, because here's why assuming the close is so powerful. 9 times out of 10, at least in my experience, is that people don't buy usually on the first ask. Usually they want to think about it. Usually they have more questions they want to work through. If you never assume the close, you never can get to the real objection. Realize that there's a reason why all these sayings come out of the sales industry. You know how they say about stereotypes, right? But sayings, there's truth to them. Buyers are liars. What that means is when you walk into the retail store and the retail rep asks you, can I help you find something? You go, no. Your natural inclination as a consumer is to say no. The prospect's natural inclination as a consumer is to say, I need to think about it. Even if they want to do it, their natural inclination is to say no. And you need to realize that in order to get to the real objection, again, it's embracing the no. You've got to assume the close. You've got to go in with this assumptive close so you can battle to the real objection. I tell my callers all the time that, look, it's a one-call close mentality. It's not a reality. When you look at your sales and you look at your overall sales, a lot of times it comes after calling and following up. But if you don't have the one-call close mentality where you're going in and going, hey, we're going to get this person signed up here on the first call, you'll never earn the business because you never get to the real objection. And I heard this saying one time that really resonated with me. It's basically the sale doesn't begin till you ask for the order. Everything else is just a presentation. Until you ask somebody to actually use your service, whether it's to, use you as an insurance agent, to use you as a real estate agent, until you ask somebody to actually sign to get the yes on the dotted line, everything else is just a presentation. The sale begins when that consumer actually has to think about purchasing, actually has to think about stepping forward. Assuming the close is so powerful. We measure people on how many times they ask for the order every day. One of the challenges we give to sales reps is take a yellow pad piece of paper, and every time you ask for the order, write it down, because if you get to the end of the day and you don't have a bunch of check marks, you're not going to be successful. And remember, knowing that you're going to ask and you're going to get rejected. But the asking leads you one step closer into being able to source out the real objection for that buyer. And I always tell my salespeople, the only reason someone doesn't buy from you is because they don't see the value in what you are presenting. They don't see the value, because if they saw the value, they would buy. I mean, the easy example is if I had $1 million right now and all I needed from you was to pull over to the side of the road. Would you pull over to the side of the road to get the $1 million? Or let's do a better example that we all experience. Hey, here's $1 million. I just need you to take the $1 million. Would they say they need to talk to their partner, or would they take the $1 million? Of course they would take the $1 million. The only reason they need to talk to their partner is because they don't see the value in what you've presented. So they need to say, hey, the risk of me having to talk to my partner is way greater if that doesn't go right than the value that you've presented. But if it was $1 million, if it was plain as day, hey, guess what? They take that $1 million without talking to their partner because they see the value. So what does that tell you as a salesman? And again, I'm just giving you guys the things that we teach holistically here at Reminder Media to go, look, value sells. Feature tells, value sells. When they say no, guess what they're saying no to? They're saying no to the value. They don't understand yet the full value of what you're bringing to the table and how that translates for them to a pain point being solved in their life or a desire being achieved in their life. Because if you can tie it to the desire that they want to achieve or the pain point they're solving, man, they'll step forward every time. It's like seeing the $1 million in your hand. They'll step forward every time. So you always got to go back to that value. All right, fourth thing that I'll give you, and I'll wrap up here, is everybody faces objections in sales. So our process for overcoming objections, now yours is probably going to be a tiny bit different based upon your industry, but I think this framework is good for you guys to think through. So we have a framework that I created called Acknowledge, Isolate, and Overcome. So when you get an objection, which we all get, you need to follow the framework of acknowledge, isolate, overcome. So what does that mean? Well, one is acknowledging the objection. Don't just go right into overcoming, which is what rookie salespeople do. If you go right into overcoming the objection, guess what you enter into? Debate mode, argument mode. Who wins in a debate? Nobody ever wins in a debate, right? So the guy debating this guy, they never win. The audience might dictate who wins, but these two never win. When you're in a fight or an argument with your significant other, if you get into an argument, guess what often has to happen? You actually have to go apart for a while before you come back together because you've calmed down, your emotions have reset, and then you come back and say, honey, I was wrong. Or at least if you're a smart husband, you come back and say, honey, I was wrong. But you want to acknowledge, you want to, Grant Cardone calls it stay in agreement. When someone says an objection for us, right? Maybe someone tells us we offer a customizable magazine as one of our products. And they say, hey, I want to see a sample. Hey, completely understand you want to see a sample. That makes a lot of sense to me. I love seeing samples of stuff too before I purchase. So that makes a lot of sense. I stay in agreement. I acknowledge. But then you move into the second phase, which is you want to isolate your objections. Why do you want to isolate the objection? You want to isolate the objection to make sure it is the real objection. So just because you acknowledge the objection someone's giving you doesn't actually mean it was the real objection. So you want to isolate. Your techniques might be a little different than mine, but for me, it'd be something like, hey, totally understand you want to see a sample. Hey, let me ask you this. Is it just seeing the sample? Meaning like if the sample's everything, obviously we've talked about it being, you love it, would you move forward with me? Meaning I want to narrow it down and isolate. Is there any other reason you wouldn't move forward on this deal? And when I'm teaching this or doing this on the phone, you're not doing it in a pressured way. You're doing it in a sincere way of going, hey, I just want to make sure, is it just seeing this? Is this the reason? If this was taken care of, you'd be good to go. When you do that, the prospect automatically is getting funneled, and the prospect is either going to vomit on you all their other objections that they have, and then you know, okay, it's really not that, and it might holistically be the value they don't really believe in, and they're just giving me a fake objection. Or you can start understanding, what am I dealing with here in terms of where the prospect is in comparison to what I'm presenting to them and how many objections they have. If you don't isolate, at least in phone sales, I used to have a field force of about 100 outside salespeople that would go, to offices, go face-to-face. We no longer have that. We do it all phone sales and webinars now. But when you are on a sales call, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone, you have a time limit. Sales can literally die by fatigue of the phone call. That you haven't lost them because they don't believe in the product. You haven't lost them because they haven't overcome the objection. You've lost them literally because you've taken too long. There's a fatigue that sets in when you're overcoming objections that the consumer just gets tired of. And if it's on the phone, they have an easy way out, right? They can hang up on you, or they can push you off pretty easy. So you've got to isolate so you don't experience where you answer and you overcome the objection, but all of a sudden they spit out another one and then another one. And all of a sudden you reach fatigue of a phone call and you lose that sale. So after you isolate, they say, yeah, Luke, if the sample's all that, you made it out to be, of course, yeah, I'd love to give this a shot. Then you move in to overcoming. And the key to overcoming that I always tell people is you want to reiterate your value proposition. You want to reiterate to people what they are getting. And when I say your value proposition, what I really mean is what is the benefit for that prospect? Why have they stayed on the phone with you? Why have they taken an appointment with you? What is the outcome they were hoping to achieve? And if you've done your due diligence in your discovery phase of your sales process, you understand the pain that they're feeling. You understand the desire, their outcome they want to achieve. In your overcoming, you must reiterate, hey, this is what the prospect is hoping for, and this is what they'll get. In a simple scenario like wanting to see a sample, and our technique, and there's many, many techniques that you can do in takeaway sales, we'll use a risk-free tactic there where, hey, let me get you out a sample. But let me do this. Let me get you set up. I'll get you out a sample. If for any reason you see the sample, it's not everything that's made out to be. Heck, man, I'll make you laugh. If you stub your toe this morning getting a cup of coffee and you take it as an omen not to do business with Luke Acree, no problem at all. We won't move forward. We'll cancel it all out. I've never had that happen, but I'll get you that sample. We'll get it all out. This way I can get you a username and password and actually get you more info that you can see in the system. We'll use a simple risk-free to overcome that sale. What that means is I want to go back, reiterate the value. Then I want to logically give them an overcoming of what their excuse is or what they need. And then I go for the close again. Now here I'll wrap up with this, right? You acknowledge, you isolate, you overcome. In overcoming, what I have found is people, they want to have confidence based on logic, but they buy on emotion. So they want to have confidence on logic. It has to logically make sense for them. But the way they're going to make this decision is based upon emotion. So what does that mean? And how do you tap into that? What I teach my sales callers is if they've been on the phone with you for 40 minutes, if you've walked them through and they actually want and like what you're offering, right? It makes sense to solve their pain point. They really need that that emotion to enthuse them to make that decision if they're actually delaying or stalling, right? So if somebody says they want to think about it, we all know as salespeople, man, you could think about it for 2 days. You're still going to have that fear of the unknown, right? There's still always going to be that risk, right? So we always teach our salespeople that you want to give them a confidence, right? So one of my best sales callers, right? This guy makes well over 300 grand a year. He's just a beast on the phone, right? He always tells people, hey, give me 2% of your trust. I'll earn the 98%. Give me a chance one time. Just like you ask your clients to give you a chance to take a little step, a leap of faith with you, I'm asking, give me a chance one time. I will not let you down. Give me 2% of your trust. I'll earn the 98%. That confidence, it's totally emotional, not logical, right? It has some logic to it, but not logical, totally emotional. But you'd be so amazed how that, connecting to the emotion of the individual, that gives them that little ump over the finish line to actually go, you know what, Chris? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Because Chris has already done his due diligence of making sure it all makes sense logically, that it actually helps them for the pain point they have or the desire that they want to achieve. And then he's able to present forward that confidence and emotion that gets them to move forward. So those are just 4 things that we teach. Again, we teach a myriad of different things, but those, having a playbook, the smile and dial mindset, assuming the close on every call, and then acknowledge, isolate, overcome, those 4 things have been game changers for my sales business. To give you an idea, my guys are making 200 calls a day, 4 hours plus on the phone, and their goal is to close 3 deals a day, right? So our guys are smiling, dying all day long. Those are the salespeople that we have on our floor. Hope some of this you can take, apply it to your sales business. Remember, get out there, win for you, for your clients, for your family. Let's start the week off strong. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Brian, thank you for the comment. Those on Instagram, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you joining in, and I'll see you next Monday. Have a great one.